Greetings, my fellow gamers. It is I, Wraith King, bringing you news from beyond the mirror from the other world. And today we are playing another game of Hearthstone. This was a very fascinating game, but before I begin talking about this interesting game, I wanted to tell you guys that I really enjoy playing Hearthstone, but the warrior just isn't my professional class. It really isn't. But there are a few things that I am struggling with concerning the warrior on this game, and sometimes it can be related to the fact that I just don't have enough taunt minions. Now let me just tell you this, I am not a pro warrior, I am not, but the warrior is definitely one of my favorite classes, and I kind of just discovered this today. The warrior is really good with taunts. He's really good with taunt minions, and to have few of them is not a good thing. You should have a lot of taunt minions because the warrior works really well with those types of minions. So saying that, you should always have a lot of taunt minions in your build, and a lot of aggro taunts is pretty good too. There are a good amount of aggro taunts in the game, so it's good to have a lot of those in your deck. Taunts in general are always a great idea with the warrior. Now, another thing I wanted to point out real quick is I'm sorry if this is going a little speedy here. If you see this kind of like in a fast forward kind of motion, this guy was taking quite a while with all of his turns, and I kind of wanted this to go by as quickly as I possibly can because I don't want to waste everybody's time here. So I decided to fast forward things a little bit for you guys so you don't have to watch this guy just sitting there doing nothing the whole time. But yeah, I really do like the warrior, but I did run into the problem of not having enough taunt minions in my hand. So be sure, if you're just starting out in the game, like kind of how I am right now, as I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, I don't play this game a ton, but when I do play it, I like to play either the warrior or the warlock. The warlock's my professional class because I've been playing as him the most. However, I just didn't know a lot about the warrior, and I'm pretty sure the taunt thing was kind of a no-brainer for most players who play the warrior class, because I have seen a lot of taunt minions for every warrior I've gone against. I just hadn't thought twice to actually add a whole bunch of them to my deck, and it actually makes a pretty strong build. Even if you have a deck with solid taunt minions, it works pretty well. But in all, I really do like this build. I hope you guys enjoy what's gonna happen here. This is a really crazy play that happened in this game. I did not expect to turn this around the way I did. I'm not entirely sure what on earth this guy was doing, but he obviously knew what he was doing. Don't get me wrong, this guy obviously knew what exactly he was doing, because he was playing his cards correctly. He was playing them right. It's just that he was playing kind of slowly, almost too slowly, if you ask me. I don't know if he was trolling or not, but regardless of that, this was still a very fascinating game, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm glad I got a chance to play with this guy. But yeah, this is where taunt minions really shine, is especially that what's his name? The Stone Hill Defender, I believe. Getting two of those and putting them in your hand is pretty good for any build you have. Priest, Paladin, Warrior, even some cases Warlock would work fantastic from what I know. But it works really well with the Warrior, especially if you're working with the secret. There is a secret that the Warrior has, not the secret, but the quest. If you're working with the quest, the Stone Hill Defender is an excellent selection for most builds, but that's kind of just another no-brainer for most of the people who do use the warrior. Another thing I wanted to point out is aggro. Aggro is a really big part of a warrior. It's what makes the warrior so strong. It's one of the main things that is used to defeat the Lich King. So it's definitely a very large part of the warrior. So that's definitely something you want to invest in, especially if you're just starting out, is investing into an aggro build with the warrior. If that is your favorite class and you're just starting out, aggro is an excellent way to start as well, not just the taunt build. And plus, with an aggro deck, you don't exactly need a bunch of legends. There are a lot of aggro cards, a lot of enrage cards that work very well with the warrior and work great with cards you already have. So you don't really need a bunch of legendaries, and you don't really need a bunch of cards that are really extremely rare, like epics and stuff like that. There are a few regular rare cards, but they only cost 100 dust and are very easy to come by. So that's nothing you really want to complain too much about concerning the aggro warrior, because it's just such a great build for newbies. So if you ask me which is better, taunt or aggro warrior, I really do like the aggro warrior, because as I said before, there aren't really any legendaries you really need for the aggro warrior. There are a couple. Rotface is one of them, and Gormash, I believe he is the other one you would like to have for the aggro warrior. And the Death Knight concerning the warrior is also a very good selection for aggro warriors. But those are kind of just, they're cards you don't entirely need, but they work very well with the aggro warrior. So say you want to craft a legend, those three are the very greatest legends you can have for the aggro warrior. But which would you want to get first? Say you're wanting to craft an aggro warrior like right now, and you have enough dust for another legendary, and you're wondering which legend you should get first for the aggro warrior, Gormash, Rotface, or the Death Knight for the warrior. Well, the Death Knight is a very good card, and in some cases it works better than Rotface, and it works better than Gormash. Now, but here's the thing, you might want to get Rotface first if you can craft a legendary for the aggro builds, because the truth is the Death Knight is great and all, but all the Death Knight really is a weapon and 5 armor and a new hero power. That's all the aggro, I mean not the aggro, but the Death Knight is for the warrior. It's not something that's going to really change your aggro warrior around, although the hero power is fantastic for aggro builds. I mean, the weapon it gives you is great and all, and so is the hero power, but the hero power won't really help you late game. It won't. Especially if your board is completely empty. So what's the point of having a hero with a hero power that deals 1 damage to everybody, but nobody's on the board? So you might need some armor or something like that. So it's not entirely something I would really invest in. What I would invest in would be either Rotface or Gormash. Rotface mainly because he's practically every legend in the game. So he would be my first choice to craft. If you are going to craft a legendary and you can craft it, like right now, and you're crafting an aggro warrior build, Rotface is an excellent selection. So yeah, go ahead and get him first. And then you could get the Death Knight for the warrior. But first things first, it's probably best to get Rotface because he has seriously turned some games around for me. I mean, extremely turned the games around for me. Let me give you a really good example. Now, this play was insane. I'll never forget this play. The Druid had me pinned down. I mean, seriously, just pinned down with the taunts. You know how the Druid is with those taunt minions. I really wish I had a screenshot of this play, but all I can do is really just tell you guys about it. But anyways, the Druid had me pinned down with all those taunt bugs. You guys know how it is with those. But I used Brawl, and that really just changed the board. But this is what made the game really shine, is Rotface and my Berserker. All of these cards work great together, but Rotface alone is enough though. He can fill the board with so many different legendaries that it might mean just simply game over. No matter how low your health is compared to your opponents, it just means game over. So if you're looking to craft a legendary and you have enough dust for it and you're just starting out in the game, which 9 times out of 10 you probably do have enough dust to craft at least one legendary, my suggestion would be Rotface. Definitely Rotface. That's if you're building a warrior build and you're working with aggro. Rotface is the best legendary for you. But you have to play him smart if you want him to shine. So don't just play him willy-nilly, especially when you don't have anything to deal damage to him right away as soon as you summon him, because 9 times out of 10 your opponent will be able to handle him the very next turn. So it's not a good idea to throw Rotface out there and you don't have anything to damage him or anything that's going to activate his ability. So it's a good idea to use him when you have something in your hand that can activate his ability right away. Inner Rage is probably one of the strongest cards you could have in your hand if you also have Rotface in there, because you could have 8 mana at the time, and since Rotface costs 8, you can put him down and you can still use Inner Rage because it costs 0. And say you have 2 in your hand, you can use 2 Inner Rage on Rotface even though you have absolutely 0 mana left. So this is definitely one of the strongest cards you could have in your hand along with Rotface. Animated Berserker is another really strong one to have in your hand along with Rotface. But you're going to have to wait until the 9th turn if you're going to use him and then Rotface. Now, of course, as you know, you're going to have to summon him first and then summon Rotface. Because if you summon Rotface first and then you summon him, he's not going to deal enough damage to Rotface because he's already on the board. So, as I said, him first and then Rotface. But keep in mind that this is a 9-mana combo. But regardless of that, it's still a very strong one. And Rotface can still summon at least, say you have an Enrage in your hand as well, along with Rotface and the Animated Berserker. He could summon 2 legendaries, and those legendaries could turn the entire game around for you. So yeah, this is definitely another really strong card to have along with Rotface. Now, I know all of you really do know about Whirlwind, especially the pros, but I just wanted to point this out for people who are starting out the game and really want to get a good idea on what the warrior is. Now, I know this sounds crazy, dealing damage to all minions, but aggro warrior really works with dealing damage to his own minions. His minions strengthen themselves from dealing damage to themselves. So, Whirlwind is actually a good thing for you, and a very bad thing for your opponent. Because your opponent cannot get strengthened from their minions being damaged, only weakened. So, having something like this in your hand along with Rotface is a fantastic idea. Aggro is definitely one of my favorite builds in the game, next to the Warlock's builds. The Warlock is a little more complicated though, I'll be honest with you, and the Warrior is a little more simplistic, and it just makes more sense, and it's a great build for starters. It really is. And if you're just starting out and you don't know what kind of class is going to work for you the most, the Warrior is definitely one of the best. The Warlock, as I said, is really odd. It's really odd. It's hard to figure out because, first of all, the Warlock deals so much damage, but he deals so much damage to himself, so you have to balance that out somehow by dealing a ton of damage to your opponent. So it's really strange figuring out how to handle the Warlock, but the Warrior is just strong. That's just what the Warrior is. The Warrior doesn't do a bunch of damage to his hero. That's what the Warlock does. The Warrior deals more damage to his own minions, and his minions get stronger from that. And that's what makes him so powerful. That's what makes him so great for people who are just starting out. Now, another thing I wanted to point out about the Warrior is his hero power. Now, if you're just starting out this game and you don't really care for the Warrior's hero power very much, you should care a lot more about it, because the armor thing is OP in my opinion. He can gain so much armor, it's ridiculous. I fought a guy who gained literally 60 armor. It was ridiculous. Some people gain over 100. That's how ridiculous it is. So do not underestimate the Warrior's hero power. It is very strong. Now, how to utilize this? There are a lot of cards that help him gain armor. The Alley Armorsmith is definitely one of them, but the regular Armorsmith is the most popular. Now, I don't own the Armorsmith, but I'm definitely planning on getting her because very strong card. A lot of warriors are not without this card, my fellow gamers. Now, whenever a friendly minion takes damage, gain 1 armor. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're using the warrior, as I said before, the warrior's minions strengthen from dealing damage to themselves. So say you have 5 minions on board, including the Armorsmith. You use a Whirlwind. You gain 5 armor. Now, say you put another Armorsmith on the board, along with those other 5 minions. You gain 10 armor for using a Whirlwind. Now, you see how the Armorsmith is so strong. A lot of aggro warriors use the Armorsmith, even though I don't really use her too often, but I really should. I really should, because armor is something the warrior is known for. And to have a build like aggro without the Armorsmith is a bad idea. It really is. So this is another card I would highly recommend. Now, the Alley Armorsmith is another really strong one, but I don't see a ton of warriors using this card in particular as much as the regular Armorsmith, because I feel like the regular Armorsmith is just a lot more useful, in my opinion, although this is a very great card nonetheless. This isn't exactly one of the best ideas I would have for aggro warrior build, but it's okay, I guess. It's a pretty strong addition to the aggro warrior build. But if you ask me, this card would work better if you are using a taunt warrior build. That's where this card would work a lot better. So if you're just starting out, those cards work pretty well for the warrior in both the taunt build and in the aggro build. But again, aggro is still my favorite because the overkill. It's just, he deals so much damage. The aggro warrior is just that strong. It's just such a great build. Such a great build. I highly recommend the aggro warrior because you don't really need a lot of rare cards for the aggro warrior to work. You don't really need a bunch of legendaries, although as I said before, Rotface is an excellent addition to the aggro warrior build, but you don't need a whole bunch of legendaries, especially if you're just starting out. You don't really need a lot of them. I know a lot of people think that, hey, I need all these legendaries, I need all these really special cards. I want to join in with everyone else because everybody else is using these crazy legends and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, you don't really need a legendary to be a professional in Hearthstone. You just don't need it. There are other cards you can use. Now, let me just say, this play right here was ridiculous. This play, it really just turned the game around. I did not expect to pull all of those guys out. Now, here's an example of how strong Rotface can actually be. He just summoned 2 legendaries that completely changed the tide of battle completely. But anyways, as I was saying, Rotface is a great card and all, but you can have a deck full of rare cards, and you can make moves that are just as good as this one right here. You don't need a whole bunch of them. But Rotface in itself is a bunch of legendaries. So, if you're just starting out with a warrior, pick Rotface. Just craft Rotface. Because look at how many legendaries I have just for using one legendary. So if you're just starting out and you want to use the warrior, Rotface is the first legendary you're going to want to craft. And ever since the last update of Hearthstone, the devs have been very giving in this game. They know there are a lot of legendary cards. They know there are a lot of things in this game already. So they're giving you a lot of free stuff at the beginning of the game. And the Lich King, if you play through the Lich King's story, you actually are given a free legendary card. So you're overwhelmed with a lot of cool stuff at the beginning of this game. But when I started, I always wondered which class would be best for me. Which hero should I use? And I would highly recommend the warrior. If you're just starting out, you don't really know which class to pick, the warrior is excellent. And Rotface is the first legendary I think you should craft. But anyways, that's all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I hope I was a help to somebody out there, because when I just started out this game, I was overwhelmed with a lot of different cards. It was really stressful for me. And I didn't know exactly which class to use. I was crafting cards and destroying them. I was all over the place. But that's why I decided to make this video. To give you a good idea on which class you should start out with. And the warrior is definitely one of those classes. But anyways, that's all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because I love uploading videos like this all the time. I love playing RPG games a lot on this channel, so expect a lot of Hearthstone and a lot of other games like it. But in the meantime, have a blessed day, and take it easy for me, alright? Bye. Subscribe!